Well, hello, friends, fans, and countrymen. How is everybody this morning, this afternoon?
That's the mood you're in today. Hello, friends and countrymen.
Friends, family, and countrymen. How's everybody doing? This is a
Hi,
wonderful evening. Good.
everybody.
I'm
I'm
here
so
in
close to
Daytona
the
Beach,
sun.
Florida, and Judge Vivian is in Jacksonville, and we are enjoying probably the best weather that we've had in a long time.
Oh, it's
And
some good, good,
it's wonderful. It's
some
wonderful.
good weather down here.
Yes. Welcome to all our new fans, and welcome back to all of our family, friends, and fans. We are Judge Vivian and Judge Dawn. Not we are. She's Judge Vivian. I am Judge Dawn. And welcome to As the World Turns Facebook Live program. Now, a lot of stuff that I'm saying,
No.
I don't really know. I just learned that from Judge Vivian. Think like a Facebook Live and Twitter and follow us. But we are here every Thursday from 7 to 7:30, and we want you to talk about us, follow us. Don't know how we do that. Tweet us. Don't know how we do that, but we encourage you to tune in every seven. I'm learning. I'm learning every Thursday at 7 o'clock and join us. We have some interesting topics. We are both Florida barred lawyers. We live in Florida and practice in Florida, and I'm a former judge. Judge Vivian was a former defense attorney, and she's a defense attorney now in a private law firm. And we do this every Thursday because this is her brainchild. This is her dream to encourage minority females to be interested in law and law related fields. And so we have a variety of topics from gorilla glue hair to how employers mandate COVID vaccines to how law is made or a law school admissions test and this experience in the law school. So we have a variety of topics. We also encourage you during the week to text us topics, things that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Please always follow us and text us and comment on the show. And welcome once again to all the new people and welcome back to our former friends.
So Judge did everything. I have nothing to do. We just
Okay,
gonna
well,
get
good
started
night.
tonight.
Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in.
That means we're just gonna get started tonight. So the
Well, you
last
want to tell them
show.
about your 5%, 3%, because I always mess it up. So I want you to do that.
Yes, for those that don't know, as Judge Fields mentioned, the reason why I started the show is because only 5% of lawyers in the United States of America are Black. About 80, let me put up my flyer because I made it on purpose so I wouldn't forget it. About 80% or 88%, according to the American Bar Association, of all lawyers are white and only 5% are Black. And once you get into that breakdown, that gets even smaller. What do you mean, Vivian? I mean, legitimately, it means that 2% are women and then 3% are men. And this is according to the American Bar Association. Now, I've heard these numbers recently being flipped. I don't know. There may be some inaccuracy to these numbers out there of the splicing of female versus male. But it still is a small number when the whole combined is 5%, guys. And so I struck out to change that. I couldn't figure out really how to do it, and COVID kind of presented an opportunity with going live. I went live on my first show with one of my good friends, who's also a Black attorney, yay. And we talked about the Black experience. So I am so excited that we came up with this show. She does Becoming Black Female Barristers, which is a Facebook group for just Black female attorneys, paralegals, and anyone in the legal field. And I decided to do this show As the Law Turns and bring on some great Black attorneys, lawyers, law school professionals, litigators, transactional, whatever. And we talk about fun topics. And as we say that, we're going to get into the fun topic of tonight, and also a saddish but interesting topic.
Interesting.
Tonight, we talk about Alec Baldwin. So I know a lot of people may know Alec Baldwin from, what's one of his most popular films, Judge? I'm not sure.
Oh, now that's a good question. Let me see Alec Baldwin films. I can't look up there because I'll blank myself out.
Okay, now let's see. Alec Baldwin, most famous.
And I love his acting. I love all the Baldwin boys acting.
Okay, he's very popular for SNL. Saturday Night Live is largely how I know Alec Baldwin. But he's been in movies with Tom Cruise, of course, in Mission Impossible, the most recent Mission Impossible. He was in the funny movie Drunk Parents, which is absolutely hilarious. It's Complicated with Meryl Streep, who's one of my favorite actresses. The Departed, which is one of the best films that
Beetlejuice.
Exactly. Any of these movies, my best friend's girl. I think he probably really hit the scene and became popular during the Getaway, The Confession, and all those kind of years. But he is a great actor who recently got into a new role in the middle of the desert. And in the middle of the desert, they were filming the movie called Rust, and unfortunately had an accident on set. He was rehearsing a scene with, if I'm not mistaken, the director. They said the assistant director was on stage, and also the one of the other crew members. And that scene involved a shooting or a gun. They were going over placement of where the gun should be, how the gun should be placed with the other actor, if the other actor was present. And dun, 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 I hate to say
now, understand this. Let me say this as a caveat. This is one perspective of a story. The trial, the jury will decide what the facts are. Exactly. All we're doing is reporting different angles of what people say. This is Alex Baldwin said, assistant director said that, George Stephanopoulos said this. So we're just reporting what other people are said. Once again, the jury is the one, if there's a jury trial, will be the fact finders, and they will determine what the true story is. So one of the things we do on this show is to educate a little bit about law as we can. Now, we're not lawyers. We're not going to give you, no, I'm sorry, we are lawyers, but we're not going to give you legal advice. We'll give you our opinions, yay or nay. Sometimes we give you opinions, guilty or not guilty, should be charged or not be charged. But we do take this opportunity to explain a little bit of things to you. And once again, we are Florida lawyers. This crime took place in New Mexico. So some of the things that we're saying may not accurately apply in your state. We're talking about New Mexico as it relates to New Mexico law. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. The caveats.
Yes, Judge Fields is right. So we are only going to discuss kind of how it relates and what we've learned. Because, we're lawyers. We can pick up a book. We can read. We can go through some things and be like, okay, well, this is what we learned. And this is how we understand it to be. So we are going to pick up some things that we learned. But for those who don't know, Alec Baldwin was on the set playing with the gun. I wouldn't say playing. They were acting out we call them, for those who don't know, I was in theater for 7 years. So I'm very well aware of how this is done. This is called a mark or a dress rehearsal. A lot of times you don't actually put on the uniforms for a mark rehearsal, but mark rehearsal literally means you're being told by the director, the assistant stage director, the stage managers, and sometimes the assistant director, where to place your body. Literally mark rehearsals, because it's telling you where to set your mark. They were in a mark rehearsal, which is why the director was involved in this part. Because I've heard a lot of questions. Everybody's like, why was the director telling you where to be? Yeah. This is what a mark rehearsal is. A mark rehearsal is where the director sometimes, say for instance, the director doesn't like where you're standing because the cinematographer won't be able to get to the shot and make it look pretty. Well, the director's there to say, no, stand on this mark, stand here, move there, move your arm there. Why? Because those scenes don't look cute unless you know where you're supposed to be. So that being said, He's being told and placed by the director when the gun he is alleging that he did not pull set trigger. He simply pushed or cocked the gun to begin the process. And the gun apparently made a loud popping sound. The director herself went down, and then the other crew member as well. According to his interview, in which Judge Fields just mentioned with Stephanopoulos, he says that for that moment, he thought maybe the director had fainted. Not that anything was wrong with her, not that anything had happened with the gun, that she just simply fainted. It didn't occur to him, and he did not realize until 45 minutes later, after the emergency crew got there, that he had shot her, that there was an actual projectile. They're saying there was a live round by the end of this, actually, in the gun, and it went off, and she died. The other crew member was critically injured. And so there's a lot of legality in this bad boy.
A lot. Interesting when you're talking about mark. I didn't understand that in the reading. So the mark is physically telling you stand here on this mark.
Yes.
Angle here, angle here.
Yes.
So I've never, well, 1 year, you're a defense attorney. 1 year I was a defense attorney, but my mind started turning to aren't you a little responsible, Mr. Mark guy, for telling me turn here, turn here, turn here? But for that, I wouldn't have been in this position.
No, and there actually isn't a mark director per se. This is the director, because the cinematographer has to, like, say, for instance, shadowing. If you put somebody a certain place and there's a shadow, well, now the camera can't pick it up. So literally the director sits down with the actors and they walk around and they try to get what looks like to be the best angle. This is literally called a mark rehearsal. And that is why it's done. Even in theater, when you're looking at a person, when you're off on the stage, you want to make sure that everyone can be seen in the appropriate manner, or that the shadows and the highlightings are not there. So you are physically, and sometimes my director used to do it to us. I was a theater major that was actually on stage. So I was an actor. I wasn't just behind the scenes. I did both. So, and I was one of those people that sometimes had to actually physically tell the person to stand here. Now, we use prop guns or prop weapons. I know that because there was a prop knife that we had to use in, I think we did A Midsummer's Night's Dream and Romeo and Juliet. And the knife fake plunges into the body, but it actually goes to the hilt of the knife, because what happens is there's a mechanism in it, and that mechanism comes and it pulls in, and it as you press it against the body, it makes the sharp looking point of the knife go into the hilt, so it doesn't actually stab you.
Well, now, are you checking that knife every time you use it?
I am not. No, and that's the thing. I am not, because each person has a job on each set, just like with anything else in the world. Each person has a job. That's not my job. I know that sounds sad to say, and everybody's like, oh, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it. You should always be accountable. But each person is assigned a job in this thing, just like you're assigned a job at your job and you're supposed to do your job. Well, the job of, for those that don't know what I'm doing, I am setting up for our live on Instagram. The job is each person's to do. So there's a prop manager, and the prop manager maybe should have checked, but that was not for the director to check. That was not for the set director to check. That was not for the assistant director to check. None of the actual persons that were on the scene at the time that they're at least accounting for were supposed to check this gun. This was already supposed to be done and should have come as a dummy. This should not have been loaded. And if it was, it should only have been loaded with fake and or rubber bullets or powder, which is another form of fake weaponry and usage in the profession.
But Mr. Baldwin's thing is, how did a live round get on the set? Much less in the gun, much less somebody checked the gun. And his battle cry is Someone should be responsible, but it's not me. It's not me. I did nothing wrong. I follow a routine that I've done forever, that has worked for me forever. It's not my job, even though George Stephanopoulos, you may hint that it's my job, even though you other actors, side chair quarterbacks, Monday morning quarterback says, yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Alex is saying, it's not my job.
And I agree with him. As the actor, it was not his job. That was the prop manager, the prop people's job to check. But here's the tricky parts that start to come in. This is a death. Like, it's not just like, oh, you know, this person stubbed their toe. This is a death. Somebody died because of the negligence of someone else or the intentionality of someone else. And that's where we run into problems. It's like, was this intentional? Did somebody do this on purpose? You know, was this an accident? If it was an accident, whose gross negligence? Because this is going to be gross negligence, guys. This is. I think this is going to hit manslaughter by Florida statutes if it wasn't intentional.
The issue with all of this always, and you and I have both seen it, if something tragic happens, the public wants something to be done. There is no, oops, it was an accident. Oops, things happen. Oops, pure just a coincidences of two roads meeting in the woods. And we don't know. The public screams bloody murder. Someone must be accountable for this. Always? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not taking a stance as far as the Alec Baldwin trial or manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, not commenting on the law or what the investigators are doing now. But globally, when car accidents happen, when a child dies or something happens, the public says somebody should pay. Well,
and I agree with that. I mean, it's somebody's fault. The gun didn't just load itself. It didn't walk around and was like, let me go find a live round and click. You know, the judge, it didn't load itself. Somebody put that live round in there, whether it was him, whether it was a prop manager, whether some person had to do that. It could have even, here's the crazy part, guys, for those that are trying to figure out who could all be enjoying this, let me start off with how far back this can really go.
Way back.
This can go back to the manufacturers.
Way back.
That's just how many people can be involved in this. This can go back to the manufacturers. They can be sued criminally and civilly. And that means criminally means subjected to jail or prison time. Civilly means heavy money. Because there was a death. And as Judge Field said, people want to know. Family wants to know, why is my daughter, my sister, my aunt, my friend, my mom dead? You know, who's responsible for this? If you guys have any
sometimes
questions,
you can intend the act, but not intend the consequences. That's kind of like a DUI. I intended to drink. I intended to drive. My consequences were not to kill somebody. Not even the prop person, the person that bought the ammunition, the live rounds and the dummies and the hollow points to the scene, put them in someone's hands and say, this is for the prop gun. They're all dummies. That was a mistake. Now, the person that's loading the gun or look at the bullets and say, okay, the prop guy says they're all dummies. They look all dummies. I'm giving them to the assistant director and tell him it's cold. The assistant director says, okay, I looked at the weapon. Okay, it's cold. I tell Mr. Baldwin, it's cold. Mr. Baldwin doesn't shoot. He pulls the trigger out and someone dies. There's 4 people that totally did not do anything well, allegedly anything wrong, intended any harm, but there's a death.
Here's the thing too, that is accounted for in law, guys. So that's why I'm saying at least in the state of Florida, I think this can reach the levels of manslaughter because it wasn't intentional. He didn't come in with the insight. As you just said, the prop managers may not come in with that intent, but the death occurred. And just like you just said, like vehicular manslaughter, like we have in this state, I don't think most people intend to get in their cars and purposefully go run into people and make sure that they die. So that's why I'm thinking that this will probably reach the level of manslaughter. However, I feel very, very bad for Mr. Baldwin here because I know he's going through the ringer. But also, Mr. Baldwin is a prime example, in my opinion, of one of the things that I talk about a lot on this show. And I don't have my shades, but I'm about to shade everybody.
Let's do it. Let's just do it.
Keep your mouth shut.
Keep your mouth. Keep it. Every attorney in the world is looking at this saying, really, Alec? I mean, and George Stephanopoulos, who's known like worldwide. Really, Alec? Really? And so my defense would be, as you go on TV and say, well, look, there was a death. Tragic as it is. Somebody is blamed, not me. I didn't do anything. I did my routine every time. And George Stephanopoulos says, shouldn't your routine been to check the gun?
No,
that's not. Oh God.
In my brain, I'm thinking to myself, his attorney right now is like screaming. He's running around with he is probably on the phone hitting his number like, if you don't get off this
pick
TV,
pick up.
He probably called the set manager and was like, tell him to shut up.
Shut up now. Damage control.
I feel bad for crisis management experts with him right now. PR, his attorney has probably fired himself. His attorney resigned. I can't do this. I mean, I feel bad, but for those who are probably wondering who can be involved, that's where we're going to go. We can list that because that was a question that I've heard about this case, is who can be involved, who can be held responsible for this. Let me tell you, the gun manufacturers, the gun makers. I know this is, and people are like, wait, they weren't on the set. Yeah. The gun manufacturers, the gun makers, any prop person that was involved in touching that gun.
Any
actor that was involved in touching that gun. And I say any like this because y'all understand, I legit mean, even if you just caressed the gun because you wanted to know what the side of a gun felt like, you are a possible liability or problem or person that can be harmed criminally and or civilly because of this gun going off.
You understand that criminally and or civilly. It's not over just because the state of New Mexico decides not to do anything criminally. There is a potential civil lawsuit following all of this.
Exactly.
Because somebody was killed as a result of the negligence, gross negligence, unintentional conduct of another person. And that's what manslaughter is. It's an unintentional action, an unintentional act that results in someone's death. Yeah. And unfortunately, I can't say fortunately or unfortunately, and some things just happen. And sometimes the public doesn't understand. Some things just happen. There's no one criminally liable for it. It just happened. But in this case, a live round made it to a set. Someone didn't check. Alec Baldwin didn't check. He said he's never heard of the word armorer or something like that. The prop guy didn't check. The assistant set director said, "This is not my job. This is the prop director's job. I don't do this." Even though he's told Alex.
Hold on. His attorney said that, and so yeah, that was his attorney's job. His attorney was doing his job. He said, "Hold up, I will neither confirm nor deny that he handed him that gun." This is true. This is the attorney's, and the attorney was like, "I will neither confirm nor deny the statements that Alec Baldwin said he made."
And that's another thing that we talk about in law, introduced to the public and the lay public. That's an attorney's job, the defense attorney's job. Hold the state to the state's task is to cry up every element of that crime beyond to the excuse of reasonable doubt. So if the attorney can, the defense attorney can throw one wrinkle and hair in there, he has done his job.
And let
He
me
has done his
tell
stuff.
you, you may think those wrinkles may be tiny, but there have been some tiny wrinkles that I have rammed a
Tiny,
whole bus
tiny.
through.
And the
And
jury is going, oh, I didn't even think about that. And the prosecutor saying, well, don't think about it. It's nonsense. And the jury said, well, I don't know. Many times I was sitting in the prosecutor table and said, oh my gosh, why are you by this member of the jury? Are you really entertaining this stuff? Are you really? Huh. Oh my
it
gosh.
is my job to get them to entertain it. And let me tell you, I'm not boasting. I've done it very well a few times. I have definitely left lots of room for doubt. And so I know that if there is any time for the defense counselor to be saying we will not confirm or deny, it is now. I feel bad for all parties involved though, because there was a death here.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part, is that somebody died,
Yeah.
and you can't take that back. You can't undo that. You can't change that.
And understand the family. I don't know if the producer has a husband and child. The family does not control the state's criminal lawsuit. The state will take that input into consideration, like the family says, please don't charge Mr. Baldwin, or please don't charge this person. But the family doesn't own it. The state of New Mexico owns that lawsuit. The people of the state of New Mexico. So, before you say, why don't the family just step up and say, don't do it? That's not their lawsuit. That's their private lawsuit, maybe, but that's not they don't own the criminal case. They don't own it.
Now, you guys know how this process works. Drop your questions, drop your answers, your responses, what you feel about it. If you've even heard of it, things you don't understand. I can kind of cover quite a few bases here. As I mentioned before, I do have experience in theater and film and television. I've done quite a bit of it. And so, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's a sad thing for everybody. Today is not, I would normally use this to say, hey, guilty or not guilty. But because this case is, such a big case and it's still going on, I think it's probably best that we just kind of talk about the different moving parts.
Yes.
And the different moving parts in this one is that there can be a civil lawsuit, there can be a criminal lawsuit. The criminal lawsuit will determine who's going to go to jail and or prison. More likely prison in the state of Florida. Any charge that they come up with in the state of Florida, I believe, is going to have felony penalties. And for those that don't know what felony penalties is, felony is a higher charge in the state of Florida, which means you are subjected to prison time if convicted. Misdemeanors are smaller charges, and you will only be subjected to jail time if convicted.
And someone asked an interesting question last week when I was talking about this topic to someone. They said, person, he's a star, so of course he is bonded out. The purpose of bond is not to hold you indefinitely. Everyone is entitled to a reasonable bond. The purpose of bond is to make sure you come to court. So I steal a pack of gum. I don't have a passport. I have family here. I'm married. I own a home. I've never been out of the state of Florida. My bond will be $100. The other hand, Susie Brown steals a pack of gum and she never goes to court. She has a horrendous record. She's disrespectful of court, disrespectful of the judge. Her bond is $10,000. Same pack of gum, same crime, same store. The purpose of the bond is to make sure the person appears in court. And that's based on your record, your attitude, and the type of crime, and public input and the family's input. But a lot of people say, why isn't he in jail? Just because he's a star? No, that's not the reason. It may factor into some of it, but I don't think he's even been charged yet. Number one. And if he's charged, he's entitled to a reasonable bond, and reasonable is relative.
Very much so relative. Unfortunately, yes, it is true that sometimes people without as much money and or ethnicities get caught up in the bond system. But the generalized statement of the bond is, as Judge Field stated, and I have to say that it's a lot judge related. And if more judges would be more willing to, I believe, follow it a little closely, in the words of what Judge just mentioned, or the philosophy, it would likely be a little less biased. That's my opinion. I said what I said. Hopefully I got to stand in front of none of them judges.
Well, this is another point about the 3 and 5%. People like us, I shouldn't say that. Typically, a passport is not an issue, and so we can say to a judge, "Where am I going? I'm born and raised in Volusia County. I've never been out of Holly Hill. Where am I going? Why are you having $10,000 bond? Don't treat me like the other mainstream people that you see all the time, because it's different." But when you have mostly judges that do not look like us, their thinking and philosophy is going to be a little different.
A lot of bit different, but yes.
A lot of it different. Yeah.
I remember having to talk to a prosecutor once about a comment that they made, and I was just like, "You just don't get it.
You don't get it. You don't get it. You don't understand."
But yes. So let's see. Are there any questions about who could be charged?
Is Tevis? Is that a question? Because I don't understand the lingo. It says
I don't think that's a question. I think somebody was trying to advertise, but so we were talking about the whole idea of. I don't know what to say here outside of let's see what happens. And I feel like Alec Baldwin is saying way too much. Way too much. Why is he even doing an interview with?
Well, because everybody thinks that they've talked to a lawyer a few times, they've played a lawyer on TV, or their friends are lawyers, and you think you're a lawyer. It's 7 years of college, my friends. It's intense studying. It's 2 days, 8 hours, Florida bar. You don't become a lawyer by watching TV. You don't become a lawyer by being an actor and played a lot of lawyer parts. We are trained, barred, certified to do what we do. So that's why Alec Baldwin is talking, because he says, I've been there before. I know a lot of lawyers. I can handle this. I'm smart and intelligent. Wow. And he may be all of that, but he's not a lawyer.
No, he's not. Now, it made me think, though, Judge, that this unfortunately is not the first time something weird and off like this has actually happened in film and television.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, I decided to look it up, even though I have quite an extensive history from my film background, because I was a film major in undergrad. I'll discuss a couple of the ones that were impactful. So a lot of people don't know, even movies like The Avengers have had issues. Recently, actually, if I'm not mistaken, during a stunt, Letitia Wright, who plays the sister to rest in peace, Mr. Chadwick Boseman's character, was injured on set. And her injuries caused the movie to be pushed back. So that's another one of the things that's going to happen here. And that's another one of the legal things we can talk about. There are actual written in death clauses in contracts.
Yeah.
And the movie set, the investors, the producers, all of them are going to be at a loss for money. Who's going to pay that money to them? Yeah. What's going to happen during this time? All of that stuff is legal. It sounds very, very cold to be talking about that kind of thing. Because it's like, well, what do you mean? Somebody died and we're over here worrying about who gets paid money back for being an investor? Well, that's kind of what happens, because everybody signed contracts to be a part of this thing. This thing was supposed to be done by a certain time. It was supposed to go off like this. These actors, producers.
Movies are made to make money. Movies are just like not philanthropic ideas to make money. And so we have contracts. And if something happens to the contract, I'm going to see the party that's harmed or the wrongful party. And I want my money. I'm in the business to make money. Unfortunately, someone's died, something tragic has happened, but we have contract to protect us, and I want my money.
Exactly. So there have been other movies such as Midnight Rider. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. The Twilight Zone, where things have happened and people were killed, like legit died on set. This isn't new to the film and acting world, that deaths have occurred, problems have occurred during the set. There was, and this is considered to be a rumor, but I don't know. I believe there may have to be some truth to it. During the filming of the 10 Commandments, when they do the scene about the parting of the Red Sea, in an attempt to do that in a closed manner, not having the technology that we have of today. Because anyone that knows that the old version from the early like 50s and 60s, y'all, not we ain't got graphic designers at that time.
Yeah.
They flooded a room to try to make that parting look normal and ended up drowning some people.
Whoa.
So, these aren't the only things that have happened. If I'm not mistaken, in the Twilight Zone, and I'm kind of reading a little bit of it now. So if I look like I'm unfocused, I'm not. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. In the Twilight Zone, there was a helicopter scene. If I'm not mistaken, the helicopter crashed through the roof and struck someone, killing the child instantly. So these aren't things that haven't happened before. This isn't, Hollywood's first time with having problems like this on the set. But has this not been, as popular in the last couple of years? Maybe so. I think the most recent one that I found that was pretty tragic was from 2017. This happened more so in the younger years of film and television, largely because, as Judge just said, once you start to learn, right? Hopefully. 2017 and 2018 were the two most recent ones that I found. In the 2017 movie, that was Resident Evil, the final chapter. One of the stunt doubles, if I'm not mistaken, got into a tragic crash. So things like that, it happens, but we learn and we try to move on from it. In this particular instance, we just have to wait and see what happens. The last thing I heard, though, was, at least in a news story, that they were trying to get a hold of Alec Baldwin's phone, which makes me go, because now I feel like you're pulling at straws to get this man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I'm looking at the prosecution a little bit like, what you doing?
Well, I think this topic is interesting enough that everybody should follow it, learn from it. Whether he's charged, not charged, it's not going to go away quickly. Sometimes on these tragedies, laws are made or remade, policies and procedures arise on the back of these challenges, and this is the way that we kind of progress, if you will, And so I think people should stay tuned and look at it and tune us in and see what's going on, and maybe we'll revisit the topic again, because it's interesting. It's interesting, and it just got started. I think the Stephen Lopez's interview was not less than a month ago, so it's just getting started.
Yes.
Just getting started.
And we are so glad to have had you guys for this year. 2021 is coming to a close. We are excited to have been here. Our group has grown to over 350 people. Nice. We really, really, really want to get that number up to 500. So share, post. If you have topics or you are an attorney and you want to be a part of the show in some way, we got some fun things coming for next year. So we're pushing and we're asking everyone to join us. It has been a pleasure doing this show.
A pleasure.
I'm excited for next year. Please share our page on Facebook. Please share us on YouTube. We are As the Law Turns, or you can go to Vivian Williams Esquire on YouTube because it's on my actual page. Thank you guys so much. And
pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
In Law Turner fashion, we are the 2%.
Yes, we are. We are. Thank you so much for this year, and we look forward to seeing you next year and growing. Thank you. Good job.